for those kind words. And I just want to say I'm delighted to be chatting with you today. Like most of us, we're very excited to be part of the 100 movement that's happening around the world. I am going into my 15th meeting on Tuesday, and we are the fourth group, 100 group in Canada, and now there's well over 100 groups in Canada. So we're very excited to be, sharing any of our knowledge as we had been as we went along, and then to have the Alliance form and have this great opportunity to collect info in one place. It's nice to have a grassroots effort, but it is nice for us to collect our information and share it with each other as well. And I just want to say hats off to those who have gone before us who have been able to give us some of that information. So today's call, we're going to talk about web pages, social media, and press releases. And of course, we could spend a lot of time on each of those. And I know for, I've got some knowledge about those. I've got some opinions. We can't touch on everything. But I just want any of you on the calls to put forth your questions as a way to get things going. I'm going to say a few things, but I highly encourage you to just jump in with some of your questions. I don't have anything planned specifically to present, but I just want to have you have some of your questions answered. So just to start at the first section on web pages, definitely one of the key resources that most of us will need to get started. And I know when we jumped in and got started, that was something that I looked for resources right away. So for most of our clubs, I think that really progressed quickly. The key is to have that support from that website, social media presence. It allows people to move on. So not only having our want to create this club, but our knowledge as leaders to see where our own deficits are. If we do not know a lot about some of these things, who do we need to bring in, whether our structure is of just co-founders or a steering committee or whatever. We definitely need, in today's day and age, a website and a social media presence is very valuable. So right now, I'm pretty sure on the screen you can see I brought up the 100 Who Can Care Alliance website, and on this site are invaluable resources, and I just want to show you a few places where some of those things are. So if you, for instance, if you were looking at info for the best practices call, that is under the chapter resources, but you can also go under the start a chapter and getting started. And when you scroll down, even within this section, when you scroll down, you'll be able to see that there is a, I believe there is a section in here in the FAQs that will give you some quick tips as well about getting started. So as you go through these different sections, you'll see that there's a lot of information that will be supporting. I'm just going to scroll down here a little bit, because as we get a little closer down, and this is in the FAQs, I just wanted to point out that there was a section, I believe, here on the websites as well. So one of the key things that I think would be very important for you is to look around and see what the other chapters are doing. So by not only connecting possibly with other chapters that you see locally, but really getting some insight into what chapters are doing around the world at this point, and then you can get a lot of ideas on what to do with your website. So I just want to put it out there right now. What are some key, anyone with a burning question, a key question of what what some of those questions are about websites? Would anyone like to just offer a question? Okay.
I'd be curious, Colette, I'd be curious just to know, for those on the call, what the platforms they're presently using. Do people have a web page? Do they use LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Snapchat, others, or none of the above?
Yeah, and that's a good question, because when the information is gathered from our chapters, the majority of the people have a website, and the majority of the people are communicating with their members through website, and Facebook would be the prime ones as we lead in more into social media. So if people could just share at this point what they have and any comments about how that works for them, that would be great.
This is Nettie here, and I'm actually homesick, and I sound horrible, so I'm not going to talk. But we have a Facebook page and a website.
Okay, very good. And did you start both of those at the same time when you launched?
Yes, did everything all at the same time.
Okay, very good. And sometimes for people, people would have the knowledge more to personally to get a Facebook page up and running and spend a little more time to get the web page going. I know that for a lot of groups, they can get sponsors and people to pay for the web page, but they might want to contemplate that a little bit more about what's happening. So if you are getting going and moving along, a lot of people are familiar with Facebook, so you can simply start a Facebook page and do an event within the Facebook page, and that can give you a start as you're formalizing if someone's in a hurry to get started, or you can wait and take some more time. And again, that depends on the makeup of your co-founders and your group and people to do that. So there's options of doing that on your own. Of course, Facebook has no cost. The website creatively can have some costs, but a lot of times there are many people out there that will offer their creativity and their support to do this. Previously on calls, we spoke about sponsorship, and I know for my group, 100 Women Who Care Halifax, sponsorship has played a big role in our website and social media and some of the other things we do. So sponsorship occurs by saying, if you give this to me, given you will build the website, you will do some creativity, we will give something to you. So in most instances for us, what we are giving to any of our sponsors, whether it's for our website design or our logo or whatever, what we're giving in return is usually social media mentions and presence. So that's where that fits in, sort of back and forth between the social media and the website. So Leighton, for you, when you started off with when you were building, did you have a sponsor building your website?
You know, like so many things, I feel a little embarrassed to say really that what I did is I got someone on my board who owns a social media company. So, yeah. And we kind of did it all at once. We started a web page, started Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. We haven't really utilized Instagram in any material way, but we have pretty significant Facebook and Twitter following, and the web page is relatively just a landing page for us.
Right. And I think Leighton makes a good point. One of the first things when people have been calling me over the years, and they're not calling as much now that we have the wonderful resources of the Alliance, one of the first things that I've always put out there is really key. This may not be your forte, but there are so many companies out there that do this, that if you can solicit those to be a team member with you, that really helps out a lot. And again, even if it's not something you're comfortable with, you have to recognize that social media is probably one of the most cost-efficient ways to get through to people today. They always have a place to go back and check. And I know for a lot of people, they're using email, but what I found, and we do regular email e-blasts out of a newsletter format, which supposedly keeps spam out. But what we're finding with our 250 members over the last almost 4 years is that a lot of those emails don't go through, and we were spending a lot of time on the phone trying to walk people through their privacy settings and their spam settings. So we're using up a lot of good resource time with that. So what I've been announcing when we host our in-person meetings is to really, the two main resources that we always say to get the information of upcoming meetings will always be the web page and our Facebook. So we know that those are up to date with all the information. So counting only on email can create some of those question marks when people say, well, you didn't email me, when in fact we have emails, but maybe it's not going through. Do you regularly email your people as well, Leighton? Is that something that you use as a communication, or is it just solely on the webpage?
We do. We send about 6 emails per quarter. We do a 1 month before, a 2 week before, a 1 week before, and the day before reminder on the front end. And then the day after the event, we send an announcement of who was selected and thank the sponsor. And then shortly after that, when we have the check presentation figured out, then we send an announcement of that saying, hey, if you want to come be part of the check presentation, it's on this date and in this place. So that's our typical process.
Yeah, and we're very, very similar to that as well. So like our web page that can give all that information, what we call our e-blasts, our emails that go out, it's sort of reinforcing some of that information. It's another place to point out and click through to sponsors and some other things that are happening in that e-blast. And we use it quite often to directionally refer to specific points on our website as well. So that's the thing as well. You can get a website, and when you're developing, you know a little bit about it. It's nice to have fresh eyes of someone coming in and evaluating that. You know, they need to know where to look. And typically your people that are good at this are good at doing this, but don't be afraid to solicit information from your members when you launch your website and say, please tell us how this is working for us, because you may find that some information that clients are looking for would be more varied than others. So for us, the home page is a key page. We also have a ticking clock on there to say how many days before our next meeting, and that's often called a little widget that can be added in. We have used something just called WordPress, which is a very easy format to use. A lot of people can use that, but know that there are free versions, but to get some upgrades, it's better to be able to sometimes use that as well. So keep it simple on the web pages, key information that you need. So web pages, I find clients the groups will use quite often, do a really great job of. When they branch into Facebook, what I think people think of is they think of the Facebook and the social media as similar to a web page, that it is more static, but to truly use the social media to its advantage, it has to be a regular thing where you are updating information. So it is a wonderful tool to use pre-event, during event, and post-event. But I think that what is lost with the social media is people not doing the updates. People will go to check out your Facebook, and often if people search your name, your group in a name, your web page will show up sometimes before your website. And if they see that you haven't made a post for 6 months, that you started 2 years ago, they may not be sure that you totally exist. So one of the ways to sort of break that down within your committees is to have different people responsible for different elements of the social media. So you may have people very used to Facebook, and that's great. But as Leighton said, you know, many of us have Instagram accounts, and maybe we're not all as secure with that as well. So if you have anyone in your group, that have those talents, don't be afraid to solicit them and ask them to maybe charge them with just working on one of those elements. And Leighton, in your group right now, do you divide up some of the social media different platforms, or is there one person that does that for you?
There really are 2 of us that are active. One of them's me, and the other is the person with the social media expertise. And work across all the different platforms. And I rolled out of the leadership role with the organization, but I've remained involved with the social media part. So we kind of did it all with 1 or 2 people.
And what I've done as late as well, just so you know, is I've looked to one of our local community colleges who have public relations students that graduate every year. And we've asked one of the gals there who has come online and committed to us and is assisting us a little bit more as well. So it's another way to get the word out by having some younger people involved, and she was back and speaking with her classroom. But one thing to know about that as well, to have her as a non-member involved, we also like to ask for a 1-year commitment when we have someone getting engaged, because you can spend a lot of time getting people sort of up and trained, and they're in and out and things like that. And when you are putting your message out there through social media, there are a lot of sort of what we call communication standards that you want to sort of finesse and have, and your wording, and you want to use them regularly. So you want to make sure that the people in the know are using that, but they don't want to be using phrases that they don't use. We have just a document that talks about that. We're very clear that we never say anyone is a winner, that we say that they're a recipient. We're very careful to not talk about the 100 group as just an event driven. We talk about it more in membership. So we try to really watch that wording, and sometimes by having communications professionals, many of the people on our team are public relations practitioners, and whether through our local colleges or a degree program we have there, and we found that overview from a communication standards has worked very well in designing the website. We have someone with a journalism degree that's on top of the language, but also just the PR nature of thinking in terms of how important communications can be. So I'd like to see if anyone would reach out and just see if they have any questions about Facebook. Is there anything in particular that they would have a question about? I'm going to whip over to the 100 Alliance Facebook page for a second. And does anyone have a question about Facebook just while I'm moving over there? Okay. So one of the things about...
Sorry, Colette. I'd be curious to know what your strategies are and if others have on boosting. Do you guys pay for Boost? And if so, how and where? Other things like that.
Okay, Leighton, that's a very good question. And just to explain that a little further, what a Boost is. So with Facebook, as you know, it's free. And the feed goes out that all the posts would go out and people can view them if you go to your site. They don't always push out that everyone can see them as much. And what Facebook has tried to do over the years is let fewer and fewer of the posts go out to people. And they're trying to monetize the site, meaning they want you to pay to boost your site. So if you see right here on the screen, it says boost your page for $7 and reach more people. I am a big believer in doing some boosted posts with a little bit of the money that I've received from sponsorship, but I'm very selective about that. So what I tend to do is I would boost the page about 2 weeks before our event and about a week afterwards. I'm always very sure about spending some extra audience to boost the page. And then every now and then I would boost a particular post that is doing well also. So there's 2 forms of paid advertising, if you will, with Facebook. One would be boosting the actual page, and the other would be boosting the post. For both of those, you can select an audience to do that. I'm just going to click through here and see if that is an easy way for you to see that. Leighton, people are seeing this on the screen right now. Is that correct?
Yeah, we're seeing it. It's spinning. It looks like it's working on it right now.
Okay. So what happens as this comes up, and you're going to see a little bit of this for those of you who want to do this, and this can be a great way to get started as well. Let's say you've just started your Facebook page. You have a post on there that says about your first meeting. Some of you are reaching out to your friends and asking them to like it. But what you can do, which is more of a push out, which is more of an advertising of paid, you go in and you select your audience. So if you're a men's group, you could pick men, or you could pick women, and you can choose the audience as well. For us, we would typically choose, what we're seeing is our audience tends to be a little bit older. So we would start at least 24 or so and go up a little bit higher with that. And, you know, you can choose your location. So for us, where we are in our city, we would hit a few of our locations just in sort of, we were our tri-city. So I would do Halifax, and it goes out 25 miles. I would click on 2 of our other locations a little bit as well. So what you're seeing is you're seeing a geographical area that would go out a little bit. You can add some additional things of what the people would be interested in that might search you out. So a lot of times charity and causes, but you can put in just some other interests. And then you can select a daily budget. So for people starting out, you might want to just put in a budget. It will self-populate there, but know that you can, it gives you some things like this that you can sort of populate, but know that you can go back and say, hey, I've got $20, and you can sort of, you know, put that in as well. And it will ask you how many days you want to run. Typically, I would click to the calendar and say, you know, for me, if I was running it right now, I would be like, oh, well, my meeting is on Tuesday. I will run the advertising a little bit past my meeting as well. And I like to point that out. I used to sell advertising for TV and radio, so I do think about advertising quite a little bit. But the reason I would suggest, if you were buying advertising to promote around your event, why you would run it a little bit afterwards, because know that the buzz also exists a little afterwards as well. The recipient is being named. You're possibly getting some other media coverage from newspaper or some other things. Some of your other people are reposting some things. So I would suggest that you might run it afterwards if you're buying it in a campaign like that, because it'll give you some additional support. The other thing that you can buy with this, and I'm not sure where I'm seeing this, but one of the things, if you are buying particular posts, it will ask you if you're, this is about promoting the page, but if we're back to talking about promoting a post, often if I'm promoting a post that might have done well, and I'm just going to X out of this for a minute, I've put a few, excuse me, I put a few posts on this page, and I just want to show you an example of that as well. If you're promoting and boosting the post, which would be different than posting the page, it would ask you whether you want to promote to people that already like your page or others. And I suggest, if you are paying for advertising, don't pay to promote something to people that are already liking your page. They're already in the know. So if you're doing that, try to make that more with people who don't already know about you. So that's a careful thing to look for if you're doing the paid advertising. Are those things that you look at a little bit, Leighton, when you're lining up some of the boosts and the paid advertising?
Yeah, what you said about targeting audiences yet unknown resonates, and our geography is such that it seems pretty easy to be able to do that without it being overly expensive. I'm no expert, but that's what they tell me. The other thing, I think one of the things that that's a little bit of a pain, sort of quasi-related, whether it's boosting or just nowhere to put content, like we do an event page for each event as well. Mm-hmm. And it's sort of really annoying that when you do, like, figuring out what to put on the event page and what to just put on the main page, because we have, weirdly, we have quite a few people who will accept the event page but don't end up liking our main page. It seems like our women's group has a lot more Facebook followers and we have more Twitter followers.
Yeah, and that could be a demographic thing with the men and the women. Women are very much more likely to engage a little deeper with the Facebook, and so there are some gender differences with that. One of the things I would like to mention about doing the event page, which we haven't been doing separately out of Facebook, when we do the event page, sometimes there's some confusion about people wanting to come without being a member. So you want to be very clear where it's membership driven, that they have to register to become a member to come out. So So this is where it gets out to the language. So if you do an event page and you send out invitations to come, and they're not sort of reading all your materials and going deep, sometimes you'll just have people come out that aren't a member as well. So that's something that can be a communications issue. Do you know what I mean by that? Have you had that happen at all, Leighton?
You know, absolutely. I think that's a really great point. We have not, I mean, we've had people show up, probably some of them that didn't know the details, but none of them have complained. They still made a donation and joined, I guess.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that's a great point.
Yeah, so those are the things where communications and having some eyes on people that think about, you know, clarity of language, economy of words, and how to communicate this in a way becomes clear. I know we have a LinkedIn group as well, personally for my chapter, and for that, it's an open group for everyone to join. And right off the top, when in the communication of that group, when people join, I have the communication. The LinkedIn group is a open group. We have members and non-members. It's a way to communicate what's going on. But in order to attend our events, you have to register to become a member. And the other thing about registering to join, I often will give the direct link to the register page and not the home page. It's just one step closer to getting people to immediately see what your commitment form looks like and what you're asking for instead of them looking around. So I find that's helpful often. Instead of giving the link to the home page, I do give the link to here's how you register right away, just assumptively, as if they're going to register when people are asking me for information. It just gets them to that page right away. They can also find there are other ways around also. One of the other things to note about social media is that visuals are key. People are more likely to look at things with pictures. So there are these great little design programs today that allow you to develop these pictures, sort of like the one that I have here on our screen. And what we've been doing as a club from the beginning is we've been sort of videotaping and making little clips, little videos. We ask them the question, you know, why do you join? What do you like about it? And so we do them as video clips, and then we transcribe them in these quotations, and then we make them into these little samples that we can use on our Facebook and on our Twitter. So we call it What Members Are Saying, and it's just a good way to have those. It's really our value proposition of why people have joined. And for a lot of people, that value proposition is it's quick, it's easy, I want to give back. So we have quite a few of these we collected each time. So it's an example of what you can do for that. And I just want to show you another way that can make it easy on Facebook that I just published last night. If you use albums and post some of these little pictures on the albums, it's easy for you to go back and use those again and reshare them. So I just want to show you. I just created an album on the Alliance page last night and pulled in some of these pictures I was talking about. So just bear with me as this is loading down a little bit. So I created two groups. One, I did the best practices conference call so we could post from there. But I just created an album called Giving Quotes. And the reason I did this, I do these on my own pages so I can easily share wherever I am. But I thought I would start doing some of these on the Alliance page so any groups can go in and take some of these generic materials, and they can go in and they can go to some of our albums, and you would click on one of these pictures that we've created, and that would come up. And usually I say they would be a little more generic. Let's have this come to the page a little bit more. We'll just take a second. Seems to be frozen. So what will happen here is we'll click into where the picture is. I don't have any description in there, but I just want to show you. We encourage all of you to like any of these, because the more people like things, the more our information will show up. But if you just hit share on this, you could easily take and share this to your site. And I'm just going to show you how you can do that right now. So what will happen is, what will come up is share on your timeline, which means your personal timeline. But if you are a leader and you manage your Facebook page and you click on share a page you manage, and I'll have to show you this. I manage a few pages for a few different people, so I just want to show you that if I want to go down right now, I'm taking it from the Alliance page and I want to share it on my 100 Women Who Care Halifax page, then I simply hit post and it will go on our page. So what I'm going to try and continue to do right now is add some more different pages like this. And right now, if you look, there's, you know, we've got some Gandhi quotes, we've got some give back, it feels good, make things happen, come join us, and things like that. So because I've left these generic, you can, when you're sharing those, you can add in, if I hit share and I want to share it on my page, I can say, make things happen. And I can say, you know, make sure you join us at our next meeting September 1st. And I can register to become a member, and I can put the link in there. So what I've tried to do here is you know, sort of give you a few of these templated items that you can use, and in the future I'm going to try and add a few more in. Again, I encourage you to visit any of our social media for the 100 Women Who Care Halifax, because that's a really great way to take a look at what we're doing, and I'll add more in. But for all of us to reshare each other's work, some of us have created some wonderful of these pictures that we can share with each other. So I'm not sure, Leighton, that you had seen that I added that in. Any feedback on how you see these working for everybody?
Yeah, I mean, I say without any embarrassment, we've you know, robbed and distributed. That's our R&D with a lot of the best stuff, and we fully support and endorse and welcome anyone to take anything we have on our page too. And I think early on that included a lot of the clubs we've helped used a similar version of our logo. And
yeah,
anytime I see, and Colette, as I've told you, you're one of a handful that we often do this with. Whether it's one of the other quote images or other things, we take and share those, and others know better than I do. But the whole idea of there being some kind of image instead of just words, I mean, that's just a really, really important point. If we just do a post with words, it's not very likely to draw a lot of attention. So we love these.
Yeah, and so for all of us, it would be great at some point to collect them and see them, but again, to get some on here. But I'm sure all of us feel the same way. If we're creating something, I make it a habit to visit as many other, you know, sort of sites as I can. And I just want to point out on the Alliance site, we're on Facebook now, and on the Alliance website, there's a place for you that you can visit other chapters. But right here on the Facebook page, I just want to scroll down to the right, and I want to show you as well. We're going past some of the photos that I added in. But if we go down a little bit more, you can see other people that, you know, sort of like this page as well. So, you know, you can see some of the other this is where I see some of the newer ones that are coming out. And very often what I like to do simply as the Alliance, you know, we all want people to follow our page. So what I do is I go out and I'll try and follow both as an Alliance member, but I will also follow a lot as my own as well. So I've maybe already liked this page personally, but you can also, if you go under more, you can like it, you know, as your own page as well. So you can like it as it will go to select a page, and you can like it, I can like it as 100 Women Who Care. So that's another thing that we can do to support our other brothers and sisters and kids around the world, that the more each of us add those likes into the website, the better that we will be. Right here we can see these guys have, you know, 606 people that like this. People want to be a part of things that are successful, and so the more we can support each other with likes and comments, the better off we can be. The other thing to mention is that, you know, it's as simple as hitting a like, and that would be you come up personally. But for those of you who are administrators of the site, you can go in and you can also give a secondary like as, you know, sort of 100 Women Who Care Halifax. So right now, the other thing that I will often do is I will, write a comment in, and, it might be congrats from 100 Women Who Care Halifax. But the other thing that we can use as a reinforcement that I often do is the power of 100, which is our hashtag. So a lot of times I'll say congrats from the Alliance, or congrats from 100 Women Who Care Halifax, and also using this hashtag, the power of 100. This is the hashtag that we can see and use on Facebook, and we can use it on Twitter as well. So I'm just going to go up here right now and put that hashtag in and see what pops up here, because these are other ways for you to see what other people are doing. And we all can use different hashtags from time to time, but this is sort of one of those ones. Oh, look, this is one of those ones that we can use. So the first thing that pops up here, this is a picture of me at one of our meetings about a year ago, I think. Early on, I think it was just when we were launching, I made a little sign on a piece of letter-sized paper and just put, ask me about this. And I was just in the office of my co-founder, and we held that up and put that on our website to start. And since then, we use this sign quite often. We take them in the styrofoam version to our meetings. We take pictures with our members, and then we place them on our Facebook site in the album, and we request that our members tag themselves in the photo. So that has worked very well for us. So as you can see, I use the power of 100, so a few of those would be coming up. Here's another one of ours, because we have the power of 100. This is just one of our new membership coordinator has shared this, and I just mentioned to her about using this. So anyone that's doing that and using that, that will come up, and you can see some of the other groups that are using that. So very important for us to keep that continuity with that one. Again, you can use hashtags for anything. We often say a great bunch of giving gals, all kinds of things. But if you collectively want to give us that strength, and our strength is in those numbers, that's one of the key things that you can use as well. I'm just going to switch back to that page again. Anything to add in about using the hashtag there, Leighton?
No, I just enjoy it and appreciate that I can just search that way and see everything that's going on. It seems like we have pretty good uniformity. A lot of people are using it, so I'm glad.
Yeah, and we have a Twitter. The Alliance has a Twitter page as well, and we're just going to start using that a little bit more. So you'll see the hashtags coming up. One of the things to just talk about Twitter, I should have brought my Twitter up here, but one of the things that helped me on Twitter is I did a separate list of, and I follow as many 100 groups as possible around the world. And it's key that on Twitter, you can do the same thing. You can retweet some of the things that are going on there. So to start out and you're going, oh my gosh, I don't know anything about this. I was talking to, we had some volunteers over last night and saying, what it was like when I first got into social media, and I didn't want to do it at all. I just was intimidated. I thought it was crazy. I thought I already had enough places that I had to check in the run of the day with phones and things. And, I was smart enough to have some people drag me into it, because it really, both from a personal business standpoint and from any events and charitable work that you're doing, it gives you a real chance to stand out, to gain membership, to gain sponsorship, and to let your community know about it. But also from the standpoint, as a segue into the media releases, to be soliciting local media to follow along with you. I know when our first TV coverage that we received, we had freelancers that just had it pop up as we were live tweeting and using the hashtag of our city that night, that we had freelancers come in and tape it and get it back to the stations to use it. I also have a lot of the social media people, the journalists following us, because I've sent specific invites out to them. And even on Twitter, you can direct message them out of your Twitter account and make requests and things like that. So it's a good way. A lot of people think of it just as a way to say, as an event announcement, but I want you to know that there's just so much more value in that. And when we talk about press releases, again, my background is public relations, but I haven't worked purely in that sense since graduation, but public relations has played a key part in most of what I do. The real media release or the press release are still valuable, but I just know from a journalistic perspective, they really want to, a lot of times, find things themselves and be in the know themselves. And if we are using social media in a great way, they are finding it themselves by making the announcements and looking at what's going on and getting them engaged. So that's a great way to do it. But just from your traditional media releases, you have to understand that you want to put yourself in the position that journalists today would get hundreds of these a day. The radio and TV stations get hundreds of these a day. And you want to question the newsworthiness of that. Most of the time, these groups are looking to cover what's in the news, what's hot, what's not. They're on tight deadlines, and you may not know what they're going to cover ahead of time. They don't always have time for these good news stories. And know that if you are in the beginning of launching and that launch stage for that first year, you are more newsworthy because you are new. As your cycle progresses on where you are in your longevity of a club, you are not as newsworthy. I know I have a local talk show guy who has had me on several occasions, and as we get further in and I reach out to him, what I say to him is, I'm not looking for you to have me on. We are sending the release out because we want you to talk about our recipient. And that, when I do get a chance to have opportunities with them. And when we send out the media releases of afterwards, we send out ahead of time saying it's happening, hoping for coverage. But when we send it out afterwards, we are definitely, the push at this point is for them to chat with our recipient. And we give a lot of information about those and the phone number of people to do that. We've also brief the recipients on how they can help us out when they get the media, that they're saying things like, oh, if it wasn't for 100 women, we wouldn't be able to launch this project. And we also encourage them to talk to the media about following up with them. So we send out a release ahead of the meeting, hoping to get them to cover the meeting. We send out one that evening. We have it ready to go, already with information in, and we send it out right away. Often that media release we post on our LinkedIn site and sometimes on our Facebook. And then midway through, we send out another media release talking about an update from the group if possible. We try to do maybe a site visit if it was an urban garden, or we've been out to the lymphoma ward when they were launching the kits that they built. So we're really trying to expand the in-between time of creating more media coverage in between as well. So what we're doing is creating a mini event between our events quarterly that is a bit of a show and tell. We call it a site visit because sometimes it is on site. We've had a variety of different things, and it's not always appropriate for all of them, but we're trying to build that a little bit more because that can give some real coverage. What you have to recognize out of that is you may be just a slight mention in what your charity is getting for coverage to talk about their programming, but that's still okay for us as well. Our philosophy is to, not only raise money, and we've raised $250,000 now, but we want to raise the, awareness of that charity during that quarter in between. We kind of look at it as if we are their independent consultant in between. I've done a little bit of media training, when they were getting some stuff, what to say. We've looked at their website and helped them out a little bit as well. So that's a little bit about how we do that. But know that a lot of people get very discouraged about sending out media releases, but because they say they don't hear back. But no, it's something that I feel you should still do. But definitely in the beginning, you're going to get more pickup from that than you could possibly later on. Leighton, anything to add there, and any other questions that we should talk about a little bit with the media releases?
I don't think I have anything to add, but I think you're right to ask about what else we should discuss. Maybe we pause here and see what other people are wondering. Or I always like to poll the group too, just on any of this. Who's had success getting press coverage? The thing that stood out to me most, call out about what you shared, is that we really do have a cycle or evolution of the club's relevance from a PR standpoint. And
Yeah.
we were just everywhere when we started. I mean, on the news, and every show, and et cetera. And in our late third year, fourth year here, we're you know, we sometimes get press coverage when we do our check presentation, but not really, you know, at all in the events.
Yeah, and it's important for us to recognize that at the stage that we're at, we are not newsworthy. So having said that, how do you create newsworthiness? So having the three groups together, if there is a you know, sort of a milestone of you've hit 500,000 or 250,000, like what makes it newsy? If there's something going on in the news and you're a recipient, there's a tie-in with that. That might be a way to send it out. But the expectation of that, it would just continue, and that you would receive that news would is not something you should expect. Another thing to consider is to ask who might have any friends in the media, because that's very helpful as well. To have the ask maybe coming from someone else through the back door, if someone's having a glass of wine once a month with someone who is a journalist who works at one of the stations, that might be a way in. One of the other things that I did through sponsorship for this year was I pitched to the radio station, which is perfect for our demographic. I pitched them a sponsorship, and they gave us $10,000 worth of radio ads for a year, which meant a week out from our meeting, they run a generic ad. And when I say sponsorship, you have to think it's a barter. They are giving us that, and what I laid out was, we will give you lots of mentions on Twitter. We will mention you from the podium. We will mention you on Facebook. We will give tons of shout outs. And because we have thousands of people on both Facebook and on Twitter, that is appealing to them to give that to us, because they are getting those shout outs. You know, we were at the community booth at one of the malls doing a shout outs, and we got retweets from the radio station. So, you know, they want to feel that they're getting mentioned, and that's the give back with that. So, you know, all of the media are really, what I can see over the years from working around the media, they're cut back so much that, you know, they just don't have the resources to do this anymore. So you may need a little more sophisticated pitch to them, and that's something in sponsorship or knowing someone a little bit more. So just a little email saying, can you run this, won't work. You have to do the work for them, and that might mean, you know, writing the ad, or what's called a PSA would be a public service announcement. A lot of times there are, you know, sort of local areas that allow you to do some of those postings as well. Any other comments there, Leighton? And it'd be great if we could get some feedback if anyone has a question. I know for a lot of people, they wouldn't even know. I'm interchanging with press release or media release. A lot of things they want to know. Within that release, you would have, you know, sort of tell them why it's newsworthy. And you know, again, to get someone that's used to doing them, it's great. You want to have contact information. Typically, if you are close to the time of the event, make sure whoever that contact is, you're not giving the office thing. These people, I know, usually when I'm doing setup, when I've been called, I've had people calling me where 10 minutes, you know, I've had them, they're 10 minutes out and they say, hey, I'm in the neighborhood. And I've said, I'm starting in 10 minutes, but get here now. I can say a few words for the, you know, whatever. And then you can, you know, sort of shoot as we're getting started. So you want to be very agreeable and very accessible. So some people will put an office number in, but make sure it's your cell phone. And even to give 2 or 3 people that you can be reached by cell phone in that media release to know that they can reach you on site is very helpful as well. So anything else you can think of there, Leighton?
I don't think anything else is coming to mind for me on that one.
Okay.
Kind of 5 to 6 minutes left. Why don't we hear from people if there are any topics that we haven't touched on they wanted to make sure to ask about? We need our first courageous person. Everyone has, I think, one question as they come to one of these.
And even if you don't have a question, if anyone would like to reach out and say, hey, I really like what this group is doing, or I really like what they're doing on Twitter or on Facebook. Does anyone want to reach out and give a shout out to a sister or brother group and see what's happening? I'm just going over to our 100 Halifax site for a minute. I just want to show you something else that can work well also. So this is just popping up on our site. We have 3,583 likes, which is quite good. We are a very small city, so I think big or small, both sides of that has an advantage. I know we've spoken before about getting media coverage, that maybe it's easier in a small city. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. It just doesn't matter. Just try and do your best. One of the things, if you look at us here, we've got our logo here, but our little picture here, what we do is with our meeting happening on Tuesday, what we'll do is we'll use this for the first half of the year. We'll use this of a picture of our chairs and the recipient. We'll have a picture of them in this little spot, and then 6 weeks in, we change this to the details of the upcoming meeting. That's just something that we have done. Another thing that you can do to support each other on Facebook is that you can create this thing that you can give a what is it called? It's a rating. So you can have people rate you and give stars, which means that's more likely for people to look at your site. So that's something, again, that is very helpful. And I'm just going to whip in here and show you a few of the other resources that I have on our 100 Women Halifax site in regards to albums that people can look at as well. So everyone usually posts and it goes on the timeline photos, but I've done an album of volunteers. So again, the volunteers can tag themselves or you can tag them. So when they are tagged, those go on those people's personal Facebook page, any of those tags. So your sales team becomes bigger. I have one album that I just have that's called Promo. So out of that, I'm just going to jump in that one for a minute, that it just makes it easy that instead of recreating the world with that one, I just want to show you we have some things that say 6 weeks out, 5 weeks out, and things like that. So even if you are on the fly, you can go into your albums and you can just sort of grab some of these and do a quick repost. So for me, I'm on the fly between appointments, and I would just click on some of these things and I would just use these over and over, what our members are saying. Often this one here, we love our sponsors. I would pull this up and I would go, thank you, C100, well, I'll show you that right now. So I would just pull this up, and it's a quick way to do it. I would share it back on the site, and I just mentioned to you about getting the media coverage from our sponsor radio station. What I would do is I would quickly bring this up, and I would just do a quick shout out there. And I just want to show you this part of it because this is important too. When you're, you want to make sure that when you're doing your thank you, if you can make sure you're including, if you do the @ sign, it will come up with the name of the person, and then that will be acknowledging them. So two things here. It's sponsor fulfillment, meaning they know you're giving them the shout out. And also that will show up with anyone looking on the radio station. So all of the radio stations and the TV stations have, thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of followers. So by you doing a shout out, you know, thank you to our sponsor C100, and simply post that, that's going, you know, that's going out, and that's giving them a shout out, and that's getting us involved with all their followers and their radio listeners. So that's another quick way that I've set up the site to make it not so onerous. So again, you can go in and you can look at other people's things and retweet, you know, a lot of what they have. But I found that using the albums to do that, and posting the photos from each group in an album from each of the meetings, that really makes it easy as well. So I encourage you to look forward to the Alliance site, and we'll be giving you some more of those resources. I encourage you to listen to these calls and spread the word to other leaders within your group. Collectively, we have a lot of giving that we can give around the world, but collectively we can use each other's resources to our advantage as well. So I thank you for coming out today to join us to learn a little bit more.
Cool. Thanks, everybody, and thanks for the chats. I'll stop the recording now, and if you have any follow-up, we always do a Facebook and LinkedIn post. If there's anything that came up you didn't get to discuss today, go ahead and continue the conversation online. So thanks, everyone.
Thank you.